Say what you will about Fallout 4 and the changes it made to the series, you can't deny that the weapons were, for the most part, a vast improvement over previous games. I say, for the most part, because there's one weapon that ruins the entire game just with its existence. Can you beat Fallout 4 with only a flare gun? Speaking of flair, there's still time for you to add some flair to your life with the Fork Barbarian plushie. It might not make whatever pain you're feeling go away, but it will help you through the hard times. Just imagine having the worst day of your life. You look down at the plushie for moral support, and with a nasally twang it says, "This is where the real game begins." That probably won't happen, but if you're in enough pain, you could certainly imagine it. I suppose we should start at the beginning. After making my character as true to life as possible with a giant crooked nose, oversized eyeballs, and a bald spot, I realized that I'd forgotten to activate the mod that shows full lines of dialogue, was already far too late into the game to go back and activate it, and started assigning special points. It's been proven with the power of probable science that luck and the idiot savant perk are better in the long term for maximizing your experience than going with intelligence. Because I was only after a few perks, I spread out the remaining points amongst everything except charisma. Then, I had to find the truth. I had to know where the salesman goes after our conversation. I'm not sure what it is, but something about these shots makes me sad and uncomfortable at the same time. He doesn't go to the vault though. It hasn't even finished being constructed yet. The bombs dropped, I wrapped myself in plastic wrap and climbed into the freezer, and found out the truth again. Nora, your supposed wife, doesn't die. It's a trick. See, her eyes are still moving. Want more proof? The resurrect command doesn't work on her. It makes perfect sense. You can't bring her back from the dead if she's faking it. I did what I always do to escape Vault 111 without attacking anything, left the vault, arrived in Sanctuary, ignored Codsworth, and the real game began. I wanted to get a few levels under my belt before I started doing much of anything else. Just needed a couple perks to make life easier. I won't waste as much of your time on this as I did mine. All that matters is that I had almost 600 pieces of fully erect wood by the time I was finished, and they were arguably the most organized they'd ever been. Satisfied with my work, I left the settlement and set off for Concord. Why? Because that's where the real game lives. See, like most unique gimmick weapons that aren't worth their weight in shit, the flare gun is a pain in the ass to obtain. To get it, you've gotta complete the first step quest, which comes after When Freedom Calls. You know, that quest that involves killing a bunch of raiders to save the Minutemen. As luck would have it, it's not at all easy to do that when you can't attack anything yet, because anything but a flare gun is not a flare gun. The raiders outside can be cleared out by Preston if you're patient enough, no problem there. But the ones inside, well, let's just say that in the process of trying to figure out what to do about it, you almost got drunk Mitten Squad versus Air Conditioner round 2. It would have happened when I was in North Carolina last week, but they're more civilized down there. Their air conditioners know to shut the f*** up when they've been emotionally assaulted. Can you hear that? It's an air conditioner. And it is so f***ing annoying. Oh no, I hurt its feelings. My first idea was to use power armor to glitch myself into the office where the Minutemen are holed up in. I thought that maybe because you're not supposed to be in there until all the raiders are gone, getting in there early would trigger the rest of the quest. It didn't. All that happened was I got stuck in the door and couldn't move. Momentarily content with my own failure, I left for greener pastures, Diamond City. I had me a plan. I bought my first flares from Cricket outside of Megaton, and also ridded myself of a lot of the garbage I'd collected. Piper helped me get inside the city. I got even more flares from the various vendors inside, did Piper's interview, and had me a companion. There's a trick to making things dead without actually doing anything. All you've got to do is get a companion into a situation where their life can violently be ended, and in the midst of their existence crumbling around them, you tell them to f*** off back to wherever they came from. You dismiss them in combat so they aren't your companion anymore, which makes it so anything they kill won't go on your permanent record. That's the idea anyway. As with all things in life, it's never as easy as someone on the internet would make it seem. The only hurdle you need to overcome is probably something familiar to most of you watching this, because I know my audience. The hard part is talking to someone. It turns out that getting Piper to engage you in conversation while people are trying to stick bullets and all sorts of other things inside of her is not the easiest thing in the world. After that didn't work, I tried sitting in a corner and waiting for several minutes. Only one guy died, some idiot who forgot about fall damage. I also went ahead and used the free cam to see just how Preston was handling his end of the conflict, which was not very well. He probably could have stuck the end of his musket in his mouth, pulled the trigger, and still missed his head. In another attempt with Piper, I did manage to convince her, but that was no good. In the time it took me to lure her into the back room with the mannequins, she'd gone and killed 5 people. From there, out of ideas, I called it quits for a long time, almost 20 minutes. Back in the game, I had no new ideas. I had one, actually. It just wasn't a good one, and I hate myself for doing it. This run is supposed to be about how bad the flare gun is as a weapon you'd use. The path to getting it is part of that challenge, but it's not where the meat of this burrito is found. I let Piper kill everyone. I only found one example online of someone doing this part of this quest as a pacifist. YMCA didn't side with the Minutemen in his pacifist Fallout 4 video. The one guy I found just said to do what I did, tried to do anyway, use the companion dismissal technique. But that never worked for me. The building is too small to be able to get Piper out of combat to bring up her dialogue interface, so I failed on purpose. Successfully. Outside, I didn't need Piper, I just had to lure out Rango and let him lay waste to the inhabitants of Sesame Street before getting Preston to kill him while I waited in the gift shop for Mom to come pick me up. With life now something that doesn't exist in Concord, all I had to do was meet Preston back at Sanctuary, and part 1 is now complete. Now we move on to the first step. This was another problem that I didn't solve in the right way. I f***ed up. What I could have and should have done was lure something to the settlement to get them killed, fail the quest, and keep doing that until I hopefully got a quest that was setting up a settlement, not helping one. Didn't do that though. Instead, I entered the Fishing Club Electrical Manufacturing, I don't remember what it's actually called, and can't be bothered to check, and ran like a madman for the sole raider I had to kill. In that brief instance, I hoped to use the environment to kill everyone. Between the turrets, cars that could explode, and random explosives being used by the dozen or so raiders in that room, I thought something would kill the leader. That didn't happen. The cars did explode, rest in peace Mater, and people got hurt, but it takes more than an explosion to bring down the all-powerful Jared. I also could have done the companion thing in here, but like for realsies this time. I tried. I really did put some effort into it, just not as much as I should have, because I gave up and blew his f***ing head off, failing the challenge once more. Don't let that get you down though. The game made sure that I suffered for my misdeeds. Back at Sanctuary, I spoke to Preston, finally reached 10th Prestige level 70, and was awarded a flare gun for my troubles, allowing the real game to finally begin. I'm about to tell you everything great about the flare gun. Ready? Make sure your ears are opened and primed for listening. The one good thing is that there's a way to effectively get infinite ammo. Every day, between 4 and 10 flares will spawn in the workshop bench in Sanctuary. It would be time consuming as but you could sleep for 24 hours, get your ammo, and go back to sleep. Though you would probably have to fast travel somewhere to sleep because I don't think it resupplies while you're there. But that would give you as much free ammo as you wanted, or you could just buy it. The Fallout Wiki says that flares are occasionally sold by vendors, but that's not true at all. They're not rare at all, and are surprisingly cheap. With the lowest possible charisma and no barter perks, there are only 3 caps per flare, and because I'd been hoarding like a motherfucker, I had plenty to sell to get myself up to around 1800 caps. Most of those came from the 1200 5mm rounds I got from the minigun atop the Preston mating ground. So here's what you do. Buy your ammo at Diamond City. Between Arturo and the robot lady, you'll get around 20 flares. Wait for a few hours for the Mr. Handy to come out and play. Buy from him, wait more, go back to Sanctuary, where more flares have spawned. Collect them, then go back to Diamond City and do it again. It's not as fun as the merchant exploit in Skyrim because it's not an exploit at all, but if you're only buying flares, it will only take you about an hour to get up to 850 flares. And with all the ammo in the world, the real game can begin. Now the flare gun is just the worst. Last week I said that the Chinese pistol was impressively bad, but this is much more horrible. Here's why. For one thing, unlike almost every firearm in the game, the flare gun's projectile has an extreme arc to its trajectory, and it's slow as shit. Hitting a moving target is generally not a thing that's going to happen. Then there's the reload time. It's a lengthy one. There's also this fun thing that happens where sometimes you won't automatically reload, or sometimes if you're swapping between first and third person, the game just won't let you reload at all for a few seconds. Oh, and the damage? For reference, a basic pipe pistol with no upgrades will do about 13 damage. The flare gun does 10, but you know what? It gets worse. See, we're going downhill and have already lost all control of the vehicle. You think it's over, but we haven't even hit the f***ing ramp yet, and we're not landing on the ground. We're landing in a pool of lava. The flare gun, being its own unique layer of hell, does not benefit from any perks in the game. You can't take the gunslinger perk to boost its damage by 20% per level. You can't get sneak attack bonuses because, in case you missed it, this thing fires flaming balls that shower the county in red light. Stealth isn't something that exists for us anymore. And, lastly, the flare gun cannot be modified at all. Full stop. What it is what it is. The only perk that does apply is the Gun Basher perk, but guess who's 4 points short of being able to take that perk? I am, and I wouldn't have taken it anyway. This had to be hell after cheating like I did. I refused to gun bash unless it was absolutely necessary. The premise of this run is that I have no arms and I must dab. By now, I've since arrived in Park Street Station to rescue Nick Valentine and was met with a severe lack of friendliness in the lobby. The other thing you might notice is that the top of the flare gun is blank. There are no sights to look down. That would be too easy. Oh, and a lot of the time, you'll see me miss my shot only to have the flare go off and give you a hit marker. That hit marker isn't real. It's a placebo. It's not actually doing damage. As for the triggermen themselves, they can take anywhere from 4 to occasionally 10 or 11 flares to kill. That doesn't sound so bad, but remember that it takes about 5 seconds to fire and reload the flare gun. Now recall what's waiting for me down in the rest of the vault. At one point, I got tired of murder. The psychological damage it was causing me wasn't hurting enough. I had to destroy that which I loved. My beloved fences. I recycled them and created a new world of fences with their dismantled corpses. Retired to the Museum of Freedom for my power armor that got mostly destroyed in the process of trying to get it back from the raiders that respawned. Headed to the police station to get some collectibles off the ghouls Dance put to sleep, and took what I'd stolen to sell to buy more stim packs. Then I met up with Dance at ArcJet to let him do his thing inside, so I could pick up all the synth weaponry that dropped to sell again for more caps. Then I returned to Park Street Station. It, no joke, took me about 8 minutes to clear out this one little area of triggermen. I didn't fail. I didn't have to reload any saves. That's just how bad the flare gun is. If you're gonna try this, which you aren't because nobody hates themselves more than I hate me, you'd be advised to make this build based around VATS. The flare gun is a bitch to aim in combat, so letting the computer do it would alleviate a lot of the stress that comes from using this awful piece of weapon. The remainder of the vault was more of the same, that being awful. I found that third-person mode is great in close range. If you're close enough, the dot that forms from your crosshair will be exactly where the flare goes, so you won't have to worry about the projectile dropping. Dino was one of the toughest foes I've faced so far. He took about 15 flares to become kill. I let Nick do most of the work as we escaped the vault, convinced Skinny Malone to play hide and seek with us. He started counting, and Nick and I hid in Diamond City. The mayor was convinced by a man with the charisma of a defective toaster to hand over someone's house key, and I eventually arrived in Fort Hagen. Before I could enter the fort, I had to deal with a couple feral ghouls. These suck. Their speed and the way they go off flaccid as soon as they're within striking distance makes them difficult to hit without VATS. Dogmeat had a photo shoot, I ignored the turrets, entered the Hagen, and began facing the synths. This wasn't any better than anything else. A headshot with a flare did barely anything against a synth. A weapon bash was more effective, but I'm a cheater, not a coward, which is why I ran towards more death and despair. I could have faced them, but I had to save my stim packs and chems for Kellogg, and I didn't have 6 hours to spare, whittling away at abominations with borderline sentience. I hadn't lost too much blood by the time I found Kellogg. Somehow, I'd forgotten that he's Danny Phantom's cousin and can turn himself invisible. As you can probably imagine, hitting an invisible target with a flare gun in the midst of a firefight is no small feat. So small in fact, that I decided to just beat him to death. With a flare safely stored in his temple, I still had to clean up the scraps, which wasn't any easier because, you know, flare gun. From there, an assortment of events took place that are always the same, regardless of the challenge, so I'll breeze through them. The Brotherhood of Steel arrived in the Commonwealth. I sold what I'd looted at the fort, told Piper and Nick about the free head I found inside Fort Hagen, used a few flares to gouge out Finn's eyes, killed her in Daisy's shop, because I had a feeling she'd be into that sort of thing. Met Dr. Amari, went spelunking in the memories of a man I'd killed while wearing his clothes, and set off for the glowing sea to find Virgil. After speaking to him, I got the lowdown on the Courser and entered Green Tech Genetics to find one. This was as horrible as Fort Hagen and the Raiders in the Museum of Freedom and the Triggermen and everything else. Despite the abundance of flares stuffed inside me, I didn't have the patience required to kill all the gunners inside. Best case scenario, you're looking at about 5 shots per gunner. It takes roughly 5 seconds to fire and reload. Call it 30 seconds per gunner to take aiming into account. Probably at least 15 gunners inside the building. That's 7.5 minutes. Assuming you never miss and don't have to take time to heal or sit behind cover, it would have been a clusterfuck. But guess what? It was all worth it. Everything in the universe had to happen exactly as it did, going back billions of years, to lead me to this exact moment, at this exact second. Look at the f***ing word I got in this terminal puzzle. Just look at it. The rest of this run doesn't matter. This made it all worth it. I don't scream, but if I ever did, it would have been when I saw that. It wasn't the right password. Clicking it 4 times just to be safe proved that. But it was still wonderful. The Courser wasn't. See how little his health went away when I blasted him in the dome with portable fire? It was a solid 8-minute fight that almost ended twice before he recharged his battery as I momentarily ran away. After Dr. Amari was worthless again, I followed the road to freedom to the Old North Church, lit up the railroad, which made it much more ominous, convinced them to help me, got the chip analyzed, might have accidentally turned Desdemona into Desmond and with his head, but then I left, got the plans from Virgil, and went with the Brotherhood of Steel because why not? The Minutemen are a time sink, and I don't like the railroad today. Rode up to the Pridwin, saw what a real man looks like, got told to clear out Fort Strong. That means killing a super mutant behemoth with a flare gun, which is why I'm siding with the Minutemen now. You do have to do another quest before they'll help you build the transmitter, or you can bop the old man on the nose and tell Preston that they've gone to meet God, allowing you to build the device and fax yourself deep underground. Because I couldn't fill the kids' room with smoke, I did some work for the Institute, mostly just poking around the facility to meet some new faces. Then I did one more mission for the Minutemen, before trusting my gut and siding with the Institute. Going with the Minutemen could have been useful because the flare gun is more than just a glorified dart gun, but you need to play the long game to make it worthwhile. If you had a bunch of settlements all over the map, calling in reinforcements to attack for you would be an interesting way to play the game, but it's not for me. If I'm calling in reinforcements, it's in the form of corpses of defeated foes, not Minutemen. Libertalia gave me a bit of trouble. The raider with the fat man is beyond my comprehension. With the recall code, I shut down the rogue synth. He got teleported back underground for several weeks of unimaginable pain, and prepared myself for the Battle of Bunker Hill to retrieve my power armor and check on Elder Maxon's beautiful body. That sentence was weird. Why did I write that? Unfortunately, he only offers his eye candy to those who are siding with him. It's alright. My mind is still too fixated on Vault Yoshi to have room for another sex symbol. Now Vault Yoshi's in your head too. And he's not going anywhere. The Battle of Bunker Hill was what it always is, kinda boring. It sorta feels like a large-scale conflict, but the issue is that because so many things are attacking each other, it's easy to just sit back and do nothing. And, surprisingly, the railroad heavies I had to dismantle weren't as tough as I thought. Accuracy is always an issue though. My next job was a photo shoot atop CIT ruins. I didn't get the exact shot I wanted, but this one's not bad. This one's alright too. You wanna see something weird? Makes you uncomfortable, doesn't it? He has no eyes, but he still sees you. At my surprise, impromptu, unofficially birthday party, Dad gave me the greatest present a son could ask for, knowledge that his father is slowly dying. Then came the part I'd been dreading for the last hour, mass fusion. Getting in there wasn't the bad part. Avoiding the Brotherhood recruits as I got down to the basement wasn't the bad part. Retrieving the reactor wasn't the bad part. The bad part is killing a sentry bot and 2 assaultrons with a f***ing flare gun. For once in my life, I had a plan, and a damn good one at that. An Institute scientist joins you on your journey, so if you've got power armor, you can block the doorway to the cleansing room with your armor and wait for the good doctor to do all the killing for you. In theory, that would work. If Allie Fillmore is nowhere to be found, that doesn't work. Luckily for me, I had a failsafe idea that might work. I attempted to use this glitch earlier, the one where you use power armor to glitch yourself through a wall. There's a lockdown after you snag the reactor, and blast doors block the elevator. But if you use your power armor, you can phase through the blast doors and into the elevator that you can then ride up towards freedom, thereby avoiding the most intense combat section of this entire playthrough. For what it's worth, I did attempt to do some damage to the sentry bot. but the amount I did almost made me cry. The next quest was Pinned, an easy one if you manage to get ghouls and weasels and the Brotherhood of Steel and robots and gunners to all fight each other outside the house you're sent to. On the off chance you are as curious as I was, glitching yourself into the Shy Guy's hidden bedroom and taking off his head not only fails the quest, but makes you enemies with the Institute. Then there's the railroad. They must be destroyed. Unfortunate, because I'm going in alone. At first, it tricks you into thinking it's gonna be quick and easy, but my sister, this quest is not. As soon as you off Desmond, everyone loses their minds, and most of them do have to die. What is that on my screen? It was my mouse cursor. God, I'm stupid. And most of them do have to die. Stimpaks help, power armor helps, hundreds of flares help. Gun bashing helps a little too, seeing as it was my main method of attack, because the flare gun is still the flare gun and is as worthless as ever. It was around this time I started wishing that the flare gun worked like flare guns in other games, that if you hit a target with it they'd be engulfed in flames. Would have made this more fun. With every last one of them with names wiped out, the end of the line arrived. It was time to destroy the Brotherhood of Steel. The small piece of good news is that the flare gun can kill generators in one blast, and as you kill them, more and more synths can spawn in from heaven to take all the fallen angels back to hell. To protect the virus, I parked my power armor on one set of stairs and stood like a rock on the other. I still can't believe that I managed to kill 2 Brotherhood Knights, mostly with the flare part of the flare gun. It wasn't easy, but it certainly did happen. A few stragglers made their way to the top in an attempt to stop me. Elder Maxon never showed his face or incredible body on the field of battle. Probably would have distracted all the troops. The blimp went down like the Hindenburg. I told Father to go already, and I did not beat Fallout 4 with only a flare gun.
Go ahead. Point it at me. Make you swing.
A lot of people were upset with Fallout 4. They felt it changed too much, that it lost a lot of what made past Fallout games so great. But there's still something in Fallout 4 that most games just don't have. Console commands. Can you beat Fallout 4 as a God of Time? I use the title God of Time a little loosely. The premise of this challenge is similar to a few other challenges that I've done, like Fallout 3 as Benjamin Button or Fallout 4 as Andre the Giant. In the Benjamin Button video, I shrunk my size by 5% every 15 minutes. In this video, I'll be increasing the game speed by 10% every 10 minutes. I either beat the game, or the speed breaks the game to the point of it being unplayable, where the action of opening a door or bringing up your Pip-Boy causes never-before-seen malfunctions in the game. The timer starts as soon as the game begins after the cutscene. You might assume, because I'm racing against time, that I'd be as quick and efficient as possible. However, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that that was never an option. After giving myself the only reasonable name I could think of, I began assigning special points, which were nothing special. 4s across the board, because there are no restrictions to weapons or methods of attack. I figured a jack of no trades, master of none approach was the way to go. Terrified after getting a glimpse at the next Paranormal Activity movie, I tried to be a paranorman to someone else by deleting their suitcase full of the only objects from before the bombs fell. I f***ed it up. Maybe the suitcase was alive the whole time. Maybe I clicked on the wrong thing. Either way, I gave up. Made it to the vault, entered the frozen food section, and the time had come for our first increase in speed. With everything now moving 10% faster than it should be, the real game can begin. Usually, in these kinds of incremental increase challenges, the first few increases are barely noticeable, but not with this one. It's not super obvious from the animations and gameplay, but the dialogue gives it away in an instant. Outside the vault, I immediately went towards Not Sanctuary. I wasn't ready to enter the world of abandoned salvaging and industrial shelving unit installations. Just to get a few things out of the way, since we're vulnerable out here in the open, I'm not gonna mention every time I increase the speed. I mean, I might, but at this point in the script I don't plan to. But there will be a WDIV Local 4 news chopper on screen at all times with updates on my speed throughout this entire video. There was one other thing that was kind of a big deal, but we can save that for later. Not long after I began bumbling my way towards anywhere that would accept me for who I am, I ran into a situation involving a synth and a regular human male. This is the kind of situation you just hate to see. Anyway, I wasn't sure who was lying, so I killed them both. The Good Son would have been a much better movie if the mother had let both kids fall off the cliff and die, instead of saving one of them. Got up to 20% just outside of Concord. I'm definitely feeling it now, Mr. Krabs. It's already such a pain in the ass that sprinting has a stutter to it like that big idiot who punched me in the stomach in middle school. Joke's on him though, I don't have a stutter. I might have a voice like a mucus incarnate, but I don't have a stutter. Outside, I put my educated feet to good use by snagging a minigun, turning my ankles into a fine powder, lighting Barney the friendly lizard on fire. He bopped me good for that, so in return I bopped him a couple hundred times. Pretended to be a sentry gun, got Mama Murphy to drag her flock to Sanctuary, dropped off my power armor so I could get it back later, and took out these common street toughs before they even knew what hit them. It's worth pointing out that there are a few things that can cause Fallout the 4th to revert back to its original, boring speed gameplay. VATS is one of them. I think it might be the only one. Let me put it this way. Me accidentally hitting the Windows key and exiting the game was more of an annoyance than the game resetting its speed. I stopped by Corvega Assembly Plant for no other reason, just to stop by and say hi. I didn't get lost, but it did take a minute for me to find the middle layer of this concrete lasagna where the boss raider lives. On a technical level, it might have taken me longer than ever to get there. Consider this though. In real time, it definitely might have been less longer than the most longest ever time I've had. With the Jared finally dead, I got by a loading screen. That was fun. It's just so great when you only have 10 minutes at a certain speed and staring at a blank screen takes up a minute and a half of those minutes. It's great. Really it is. I wish I had a gun. Then again, it's probably good that I don't. If I drunkenly put a hole in my sink with a goddamn coffee cup, imagine what I could do with a gun. I tried to pick a fight with some sailors, they lit me on fire, kinda ironic for water dwellers, and even killed me. We're only at 30%, and combat is already noticeably more difficult. I'd hoped to fast travel myself into Diamond City, but the discovery point is inside, beyond the gate. In the time it took me to say that, I probably already talked to Piper and got inside. I only discovered it now to save some time later. Remember what I said about combat? Yeah, that was an exaggeration. At long range, sure. It's no cakewalk through burning coals, but in close quarters, it's still perfectly not terrible. Even at 40%, if you're naturally gifted at video games like I am, you can still no-scope a head off a mannequin from mere inches away. The upper crust of Park Street Station went better than expected. I guess I thought their beef jerky skin made them immune to fire. To the amazement of everyone in the room, including but not limited to me, the triggermen loitering around the train tracks weren't profanity worthy either. Part of it was likely the gun, a 45th caliber spinny rotating blaster tube. The other part was either me being too good or the difficulty being on very easy, or maybe the minigun I eventually swapped over to. I backed up all my talk of being a pro gamer by breaking the only bobby pin I had after forgetting to quick save before attempting the lock. What a fall from grace. To think I was on top of the world only 65 words ago. Third-person mode is generally going to be that lonely friend that everyone has that you only hang out with when you need something. In this case, when you need to kill someone from far away. I was gonna make a reference to that one guy who saved Adam Sandler's character in that one movie, but I gave up after looking up one movie and spent the next 40 minutes watching cooking videos on YouTube and eating spaghetti, just as every American should at 12:27 a.m. on a Friday morning. Good news for me, I saved my laser musket from the library. Even better news, I have a friend. Combat is beginning to become more of a struggle than it was 10% ago. Harold, the happy hatchet, is all covered in blood, and a couple well-placed grenades blew up everyone. I would have kept that series of events unfolding, but I found it odd that both Darla and Skinny Malone lost only their left legs. Got a nice, almost 2-minute long loading screen right after that. My therapist once told me that the real game is trying not to drink bleach while waiting for Fallout 4 to fucking load. I went ahead and bought myself a silenced pipe pistol from Arthur before talking to Nickelodeon and the chick who looks like she was ripped right out of Bioshock Infinite. One of the great things about the increased speed is how quickly you can breeze through dialogue. But a downside is that, for reasons not even Todd Howard knows, you can't jump as high when the game is sped up. It's also possible that it could just be that you're so used to jumping taking a certain amount of time that when it's 60% quicker, it throws you off so much that you become like a drunk idiot who was leaning too far back in his office chair and started screaming. Took me a few attempts to not get the Kellogg key from McDandy, then another 2 minutes trying to get him to give me the key. Unfortunately, the increased game speed does not apply to loading screens. After breaking and entering and giving Dogmeat some face paint, I set off for Fort Hagen. Inside a brewery was where I noticed how annoying combat was becoming with the game at 170% normal speed. It's weird though, you can kill much faster because you can attack much faster, but you also die quicker. It's like survival mode had a child with Doom Eternal, broke the child's legs so he can't jump all over the place, then gave him crack. I upgraded my silenced rifle before continuing my way to Fort Hagen. Then I got distracted once more, this time with a super mutant vacation spot. They were minding their own business, having a wonderful time. I couldn't allow that. The poo pathology test determined that I am the perfect man, and the perfect man would never let anyone who's less than perfect remain alive. You think climate change is because of big business not giving a f***? No, that was all me. I want the 2012 movie to look like Elmo Goes to the Beach compared to what I've got in store for this planet. Mole rats are some of the most annoying creatures to deal with in this entire playthrough. Before entering Fort Hagen, I tested a dose of jet on some butterflies to see how the slowdown effect would be with this increased speed. I learned less than nothing from that. I did have to set the game speed back to 180% after reloading a save, so jet could be one of those things that breaks the challenge. I scrapped a bunch of in Sanctuary to give myself some components for later, to upgrade a few of my weapons, and to level myself up once or twice to get a few useful perks. The minigun was amazing inside the fort, but it chewed through ammo like my dead dog chewed through rust on my dad's truck. I really wanted to kill as many synths as I could, but I was severely lacking in supplies needed to take on such a task. Once I got to the basement, because it is generally long corridors instead of open office areas, I went rather slow and took out a good number of them. I wasn't sure what to do with Kellogg. Then I f***ed up. I got so caught up in the game that I was completely oblivious to the game speed being back to normal after the jet stopped working. In other words, I failed the challenge right then and there. I then set the speed back before leaving the fort to watch the Brotherhood arrive. An assortment of events unfolded over the next few minutes, which are boring and uninteresting. I sold stuff, spoke to Nick and Piper, killed Flipper, entered memories, never noticed that bridge on the right. It's crazy that they put that bridge from Final Destination 5 in a Fallout game. Next stop, the Glowing Sea. That was rough. As bad as the mole rats were, the stingrays in the Glowing Sea are much, much worse. I was outmatched, even with a minigun. Now it all makes sense. Maybe if Steve Irwin had a gun with him instead of a snorkel, he'd still be here today. After that brief yet traumatizing experience, I spoke to Virgil, swam over to the airport, spoke to a knight guarding the gaping hole, backtracked to the Cambridge police station, tried to help, didn't do much. Combat is hard at 220%, had to set my sensitivity all the way down just so I wouldn't do a 360 when I moved my mouse half a millimeter, made a few more upgrades in Sanctuary thanks to the gun nut perk, watched Dance eviscerate a family of land seals, and entered ArcJet Systems. Inside ArcJet was where I started a backseat driver approach to Fallout 4. In the time it took me to pull out a submachine gun, increase the speed, and get into position, Dance had already killed most of the synths. After tasting their leaking coolant to make sure they really were machines, I set Dance ablaze, looted all the bodies for their weapons and the ammo inside those weapons, used the shotgun at its intended range, got the transmitter, was given my first useful laser weapon, and rode up to the Hindenburg, while pretending to be an AC-130 in Call of Duty by killing every single person I couldn't see because it's kinda foggy. Aboard the bird, I tried my hardest to kill Elder Maxon by strategically placing a bottle right in front of him, hoping he'd trip over it and crack his skull open. I even suddenly drew attention to it by blasting it with a laser gun, but the slippery bastard was too clever. He walked around it. I never knew such a maneuver was even possible. He gave me a job, meet the crew. It legitimately took me less than a minute to talk to all 4 people. His next task was to clear out Fort Strong, an easy mission that a toddler could handle if they, like me, brought an experienced Brotherhood Paladin along with them to do most of the work. Fallout 4 felt like a horror game for a minute after I got chased, killed, and consumed by a Mirelurk hunter, while I brought Dance along to do most of the work, take most of the damage, and use his life as a distraction. I did a fair amount of damage against the mutants. Inside was easier than anticipated. Between Dance and I, we could pretty much kill anything before it realized what was happening. Finally, at the legendary 260% speed, I began tracking down the green tech genetics to kill the Courser. I found it without help, probably a dozen times, but the combination of darkness and even more darkness made it difficult to spot the big green shaft loitering in the skyline. If you take the increased speed into account, it took me like 28 minutes to find the building. Don't you judge me. Luckily for me, Dance had returned from making love to the missiles deep in the bottom of Fort Strong and could assist me in my battle to the top of the tower. Bodies are now acting a little strange when they die, and combat was just deteriorating. Now's a good time to mention that other thing I ignored earlier. For the most part, I increased the speed every 10 minutes, but there were a few times when I changed it up. I thought things were getting a little out of hand somewhere, I don't remember where, and increased the timer up to 15 minutes. Another time, I shortened the timer from 10 to 8 minutes to make up for my 5 minutes of leisure and borderline seizure time. Here's another fun thing. Because I'm a jackass, I thought this 10mm pistol was a burst fire gun. It was not. I was just holding the fire button for a second, which made it feel like a burst fire gun. The missile launcher acts a little weird now too. You can fire it and reload super quick, but you can't immediately fire after reloading. Sold stuff. Dr. Amari was worthless. I entered the Old North Church and got the railroad to help me. Sort of. I didn't see the point in talking to them. And a Brotherhood quest is to exterminate them, so why not blow up an entire bird's nest with a missile launcher and with help from a friend? This actually made me really mad. Not the killing them, not the massacre of everyone in the railroad HQ, not decoding the cursor chip itself. Because I killed them all, the lights never turned on, and getting back to the tunnel from HQ in complete and total darkness is more frustrating than you can imagine. And I couldn't turn on the Pip-Boy light because I left my special helmet in my stepmom's car. She said she needed to borrow it and my knee pads. I'm not sure why she needed it. Women in their 50s don't play football. Anyway, Virgil gave me the plans for the teleporter. I took what I needed from my box of goodies, got the teleporter built at the airport, and carrier pigeoned myself into the Institute. I set a new record for meeting the Stooges, but convincing Dr. Amari to join our cause was a nightmare. It would have been easier to just kill her, but I gave my word, and I will never go back on my word unless I feel like it. Even though it took less than 3 real minutes to pass all her skill checks, it was still annoying. Now we get to the fun part, going back and forth between the woman pretending to be Grandpa from Spy Kids 3 when he gets the Super Legs power-up. On a related note, if anyone watching this knows how I can get my hands on an autographed picture of the Dinkster, hit me up on Twitter. If I spent $200 on novelty Vault Yoshi bedsheets, imagine how much I'd be willing to pay for something I actually want. Just like Grandpa, Liberty Prime needs some new knees. And it fell on me to get his magnets. Dance and I completely annihilated everything inside the hospital on our quest to find magnets. With Liberty Prime's knees back in working order, I was sent out to the glowing sea once more to get the world's largest cache of nuclear weapons the world's ever seen. I think I f***ed that up. I think this one clip summarizes what it was like traveling through the glowing sea. Inside the temple was not much better. I made it all the way to the Assaultron, missed my shot, that missile launcher problem came back, I died, and my last save was when I just entered the building. I got mauled to death by a legendary ghoul the second time around. The third time, with the submachine gun, I felt like I was back in Darius, sitting on the catwalk with a Thompson, Speed Cola, and Double Tap, screaming at my friend that I'm about to go down because he just had to pack a punch his Car 98 to see what it'd do. The cluster didn't end once I secured the nukes. First, I somehow got lost, looking for the exit. Then I got stuck in a wall, but it was all worth it. Liberty Prime has finally graduated from American kindergarten, meaning he's ready to go to war on someone else's behalf. Just a small snag. Paladin Dance is a synth who's gone down the River Rouge, and it's up to me, the Brotherhood's fastest rising star, to bring him to justice. Justice in this case being death. Dance didn't really do anything wrong, which is more than enough to warrant his death as far as the government is concerned. Down in the bunker, I convinced Dance that it doesn't really matter if he's not a real man, because he's real to me, and that's all that matters, and I blew his brains out. At an astonishing 370%, the time had come to derail the railroad one last time. I made sure to give Piper some railroad agent armor, just to make this even more confusing than it already is. I made her my companion after Dance was returned to Al's toy barn. The darkness was still present down in the railroad's front door. Nobody was left down in the HQ. Pam was all alone, waiting for someone to tell her what to do. I couldn't tell her what to do, but I sure could abduct her. Kells was pleased with my performance. Pam was nowhere to be found. Can't imagine where she went. Ingram and I took to the skies to fly towards mass fusion. We did laps around the building faster than most minds can comprehend. It took my mind a second to figure out how to get out of the plane. I took damage in the elevator, reloaded a save to activate a stealth boy, which somehow clipped me through the floor. Not that I'm one to complain about a little glitch when I can complain about having to retrieve the beryllium agitator. As you can see in the gameplay, I used both Rad-X and Rad-Away, but the radiation still went up like a rocket. It's possible that I might have had caps lock on, the button that makes you walk instead of run. Out of the power armor with caps lock off, you move so goddamn fast. So fast in fact, that jet is pretty much required so you don't fly over the railing. But once the jet runs out, your entire reality comes crashing down around you. In the time it takes you to snap your fingers, you die. In the time it takes you to realize that you were alive in the first place. What does that mean? The low jump height combined with my panicking did not do me any favors. Oh, but the pain has only just begun, because now there's a sentry bot and 2 assaultrons to deal with. The way I saw it, a fat man was my only chance. At 400% normal speed, giving the assaultrons even an instant to attack is a death sentence. The only choice was to pull out the fat man, fire a shot, and hope it takes down both assaultrons. It did. Back at the airport, I installed the agitator into the base of Liberty Prime's skull. The big man woke up and bulldozed a path towards CIT ruins. From the time he knocked his protective neck floaty away from his face to when we were inside the Institute, barely 2 minutes had passed. It was, as the kids say, tremendous. As we worked our way towards the heart of the Institute, I helped as best I could. Things were beginning to break down. My gun doesn't really exist anymore. I have to have the lowest sensitivity possible and crouch walk with caps lock on just to maintain some level of control over my character. Automatic weapons fire more bullets in a single second than all of humanity can make in an hour. Even single shot weapons are next to worthless when you can't land a shot on anything. I made sure to save some ammo for the minigun. As the god of time, I can stop time at any moment. I used that power only a single time, when I killed my son with the least damaging gun I could get my hands on to make sure his death was as slow as possible. Then I got my ass handed to me by a triplet of synths. Together with Elder Maxon and other people who don't matter, we steamrolled our way down to the reactor chamber, where the remainder of the Institute's high-tech homies were lying in wait to ambush us. The reactor itself concerned me only because I was out of radiation medication. I told Ingram to throw the kid out the airlock because he's not my real son, got teleported to the throat of the world, watched the Institute blow up, and did not beat Fallout 4 as a god of time. Congratulations to Thermal X Hybrid for winning the Guess the Challenge game on Twitter.
Smoking kills. Weaklings.
Few things in life are as annoying as dealing with a broken bone or realizing that you're carrying too much stuff. So what would happen to someone's spirit if they were forced to endure both things not only at the same time, but also forever? Can you beat Fallout 4 while completely crippled and over-encumbered? You're gonna notice on your screen a series of numbers that are increasing at an alarming rate. Those of you with an eye for fashion will no doubt know that those represent time. In order to understand the pain I put myself through over the course of a single 4-day period, you need the timer. It will help keep things in perspective. With my character as true to life as inhumanly possible, I immediately f***ed up by not being broken on every level. The curtains don't yet match the drapes. Using a console command after a joke I refused to let die, the condition of both my arms, both my legs, my chest, and my head are all set to 0. Thankfully, by Captain crunching my bones through the power of prayer, no amount of medicine will heal me. I can still use stim packs and other healing items while my limbs remain 100% broken at all times. Also in that command is a command that set my maximum carry weight to 1, so I'm always over-encumbered. Unlike my New Vegas Godless Pacifist run that I did on a whim, this one I did not. I thought I had a pretty good handle on things after I assigned my special points, but a series of misfortunes happened to land on my lap. I'm not ready for that, you're not ready for that, let's come back to it. These are how I assigned my special points so I could get a few useful perks as early as possible. The big 3 perks are Rooted, Aqua Boy, and Idiot Savant. Rooted adds 25 to both energy and real damage resistance when you're not moving. Aqua Boy coats your body in plastic wrap to keep you from taking radiation damage in various liquids, and Idiot Savant has been proven to be better at leveling you up quickly than maxed out intelligence. If you're wondering about Gordon, it's the most slug-like name I could think of. Completely crippled on every level now, a news bulletin told us about some possible rain later, and I hobbled towards the vault. See how fast I'm moving indoors? That was the game f***ing with me. This is me moving like someone who cares that they're about to become the dust that irritates my nose 200 years from now. It's so slow that if you stop for any reason, your guy will attempt to get into the dying position. Based purely on guesswork, I'd say it took me double-digit minutes just to get to the vault. It was kind of them to hold off the end of the world just for me. I went down to the vault, got froze, thawed out, and the real game began. See that guy in the upper right? You're gonna love him, whether you like it or not. He's here, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Despite the cartoon guy walking faster than I do, I've got a few tricks up my skirt. First, there's the lifesaver. The only reason I continued this challenge in Fallout 4 after learning what comes next. The auto run button. Press it, and you walk automatically. Next, there's the melee attack shortcut discovered first by coal miners back in 2011. There is no special animation for a melee attack when your entire body is held together with tape, so doing a melee attack in third person still makes you lunge forward at the normal human speed, depending on what weapon you use. It's not something I used very often, because clicking every second to still move slower than isn't worth doing. Had it not been for the ramp, my escape would have been stopped before it ever got above ground. I can't jump. That's a thing I can't do either. I might as well go through everything else. Let's see. I can't fast travel until level 30 because you need a perk to do it when you're over encumbered. And in third person, you can't reload a gun while you're moving. And you also can't look around while you're reloading in third person. That animation speed up doesn't work in first person, which makes swapping back and forth between melee weapons and gun weapons in first person and third person a fucking nightmare that I hope you all have to experience before I force you to. Right now, you're probably wondering two things. Why isn't my vision playing with the fog machine, and why is there a fog machine out here in the first place? I installed a few mods to make this more fun to look at. I don't think there were any weird mods. If there were, we'll handle it together. The other is why my vision isn't getting blurry from my head injuries. It happened the first time, then never again. Nothing I did could fix it and make it work. And to be 95% honest, I did this for real. I didn't speed up the game to get somewhere quicker. I walked from Good Neighbor to Virgil's Cave while completely crippled and over-encumbered twice. If you have a problem with the vision thing, smash the dislike button. In this sea of tragedy, there's a little detail that made this more fun and exhausting than I ever thought possible. Carry weight means nothing. I can take every single object I find. You might have expected me to make the ultimate world of wood in what would one day be a historic site. I didn't go too crazy. By the time I left Sanctuary, I was all the way up to level 4, with Rooted, Lone Wanderer, and Idiot Savant as my perks. My only objective was efficiency. Going straight to Nick Valentine will save hours. Animals don't count as a friend, so Dogmeat tagged along once I finished stealing everything from his house. Some rooftop sniper handled most of the little monsters trying to get into the museum. I took care of those who were inside, and met Preston Garvey, leader of the Minutemen, who got me a sick deal on a scooter and a squirt gun. I'm a man. I'm not playing on very easy, I'm playing on regular easy. I assumed that with my gun and pretty outfit, Yoshi wouldn't be an asshole when he woke up, but he was. With the Raiders wiped clean, I had a frightening conversation with Preston, told him I would see him back in Sanctuary later, and continued towards Nick. My clown car pants came in handy in the diner when I bartered with Trudy as a payment for killing people in front of her establishment. A smidge closer to Diamond City, I cleared out the Super Kmart of its melons, stepped back outside just in time to miss 8 out of 10 shots with a handgun, and went back on my word. I used a switchblade to fly through the downtown Commonwealth. I put a stop to that when the dust rolled in. As someone who once forgot about a lunchbox full of oranges they'd left in their locker over spring break, I know enough about orange dust to know that it doesn't go into any human hole. This game wouldn't do me dirty. There wasn't a chance in hell they'd let Dogmeat take his first swim lesson in this mild inconvenience. Hours into this adventure, I arrived in Diamond City, got a handful of face, sold everything I didn't need to the future of 7-Eleven delivery, convinced Ellie her boss was worth 200 caps, and set off across town. As I was about to leave, I watched a man, overcome by fear of the unknown, gun down his brother. Being the good person that I pretend to be, I brought his brother back from the dead. Now he is good as new, and the family will be forever grateful. I killed the super mutants at the base of Trinity Tower because they were there, and came to a realization. The Lone Wanderer perk is overrated. I don't need it. I need a real man. A big, green man. As with just about everything with this challenge, fighting up Trinity Tower was not all that difficult. Going against my instinct to run to cover was harder than taking lives or watching Dogmeat get cut in half. With the combination of effects of the perks I've mentioned, standing still and taking the punishment is a better option than trying to get to cover. You're so slow that in the time it takes to get to cover, you could have just killed whoever it was you were running from. With Strong now by my side for all of time, I tried to piss off a very big bird, settled for a scrapbook photo, and entered Park Street Station. It turns out that by thinking Strong would go after someone who shoots him with a gun, I overestimated his intelligence. Down in the subway, the 10mm pistol I'd had since I crawled out of the do not enter tunnel betrayed me by being wildly inaccurate. Missing shot after shot after shot when you're in spitting distance is frustrating in the most unfun way imaginable. The only thing I had going for me was that I was shooting in the right direction most of the time. I forgot to mention earlier that crouching isn't allowed, so sneaking gets defenestrated immediately. With a monster and a companion by my side, I slowly returned to the surface of the vault. Skinny Malone had the silly idea in his head that he was gonna stop me. They didn't even have time to react. I gave them that gift. Back in Diamond City, I explained where it was everything went wrong. Legends say it happened when a special sloth got somewhere he wasn't supposed to. That same blood sloshes through my arteries too. That's why I broke into someone's home and had a brief moment of existential dread as I thought I was gonna have to go back to the rocket station to get dog meat. I'm glad I didn't have to do that. Probably wouldn't have ended well for anyone. The hound got the scent of death from the cancer stick. I followed him for a time. A long time. It took me almost 45 minutes to walk from Diamond City to Fort Hagen by way of Germany's most ferocious beast. We're too far into this video and still have too much ground to cover for me to spend more than a few words here. All I'm gonna say is that I never plan on playing Fallout 4 without the Desperado Overhaul mod installed again. The main feature of the mod is cactuses. It adds a few other things too, but really it just gives the game a more New Vegas vibe. This hallway with a bunch of synths and a turret at one end and a me at the other is probably the best example of how having broken arms can impact your ability to fire a gun. It's almost impressive how many shots I missed. That being said, I deserve the pain of this for using a revolver. It's like grabbing a fishing net to catch bugs. Finally at Kellogg, yours truly had just the thing to wipe him from existence. 1/2 jet, 1/2 psycho, 1/2 minigun, and 1/2 a roll of gauze was all it took to be deconstructed by my murderer. The barrel was practically down his throat. I still missed half my shots, but justice prevailed. Another beautiful angel went through the strongification process, the Brotherhood arrived in the Commonwealth, and I spent the next 40 minutes walking back to Diamond City. The tide tucked its tail between its legs and ran back into the sea about halfway back to home base. I ran into the star of the greatest video of all time on the road, and as a collector of all things that exist, I had plenty of objects to trade for spray and pray. A legendary submachine gun that does explosive damage with every shot. I will admit that this new toy made Fallout 4 significantly easier. The accuracy problem still remains, as does literally everything else. At level 11, I took the Rad Resistance perk to instantly get +10 radiation resistance at all times. Nickel and Flatface pointed me towards Dr. Amari and Good Neighbor. I killed Swan because I'm the only abomination allowed to roam these streets. Found Good Neighbor, had a normal conversation with the guy at the gate, picked up a bobblehead in the hotel to earn a cool 5% more experience for the rest of time. Learned through Reader Rabbit Kellogg Edition that Virgil, an Institute science man, can help me get inside, and so began my quest to the Great Green Sea. This was what I was dreading from the moment the 30% decided to f me. Unlike Fallout 3, there are no major skips that I can pull off. Unlike Fallout New Vegas, I cannot fly through the air with a revolver. Let this serve as a lesson to the youth. If you're not looking forward to something, dive in head first and assume everything will work out. You're the main character of your life. You'll be fine. I put a good amount of thought into getting into Virgil's cave. Simply surviving the trip isn't enough. I need to be able to get back out of the glowing sea. Running out of supplies after 45 minutes is not an option. To that end, I did no additional planning whatsoever. The odds were decent that I had enough supplies to last until I died. 35 minutes after I left Kellogg's Head, I hit the edge of the glowing sea. Wasn't too long after that, a deathclaw ripped my arm off. Your boy got himself stuck by a bridge with a deathclaw on each side. A lesser man would have ran, and I too would have ran if I knew how to run. Almost an hour after I set sail, I hit Virgil's cave, convinced him to help me get inside the Institute, and headed back to Diamond City. What I experienced was the Fallout 4 equivalent of spending 45 minutes driving your kids to the water park, letting them get one t-shirt that they have to share, and then going straight home. Does that sound sad? It should. The added pressure of only having 3 Rad-X and 10 Radaway remaining helped ever so slightly. You're not missing much of anything by me skipping back to Carbon Town. For those of you who didn't go to a Catholic high school like I did, that was a science joke. To take this even deeper, what I just said was a lie. I wasn't going back to Diamond City. The Courser was smart enough to go to the last place he knew I'd look for him. the greenest building in all the land. Let's go over my perks real quick. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Lucky Looter rank 1 and 2, Lone Wanderer rank 1, Idiot Savant rank 1 and 2, Aquaboy and Rad Lad rank 1, Toughness rank 1 and 2, and Rooted rank 1. Despite only being level 13, ammo, damage, healing, these concepts are beginning to crumble. They no longer mean what they once did. Assuming, because there was no reason not to, that I didn't miss any shots. It's not uncommon to find more ammo on a gunner than it would have cost to euthanize him. I should have pointed out somewhere sooner that somewhere along the way, I set the difficulty up to hard. I'm sure you've noticed that some enemies that could be killed in 2 to 3 shots in other videos are taking far more damage. Atop the tower, I found the Courser. Lacking a missile launcher, the third best choice was to lay down a dozen mines. Safety in numbers, as they say. My gun tickled the make-believe man. I took shelter and entered the free cam to watch Strong do a job for a real man. Moments later, Strong died. The Courser's death satisfied me greatly. I verified the sharpness of my blade, went back to Good Neighbor, sold a whole lot of garbage to my only fan. Amari said there was a train convention down in the church's basement, and I went to see for myself. It was nothing more than a sick joke, some lowlife's idea of a fun prank. Like spending 8 years telling your audience you've got a twin brother, as if God would actually make 2 of me. With the fish and chips out of the microwave, I had the ultimate decision to make. The ripples of which side of the fraction I land on will be felt throughout the rest of my life. Someone who was not with the railroad lied to me about what the railroad was, so the railroad is out. I can't fast travel until level 30. I wouldn't be able to get back into the Institute after I leave for the first time. The Minutemen have at least 8 missions that can send you just about anywhere on the map, which sounds traumatizing. That leaves the Brotherhood of Steel. Here's what's happening. At this point, I'm already tied to a chair. I'm just negotiating which teeth I can live without. If nothing else, I'd get to see just how long I could keep Strong as a companion while siding with the Brotherhood of Steel, because their entire existence is based around wiping out mutants. Regardless of which team got the handicap of me joining them, I still had to get the chip decoded. The first step in helping the Brotherhood isn't completing the first step quest. It's saving them from all of us future Kirby Air Ride fans who went feral while waiting for a sequel. Inside ArcJet, I saw firsthand how much laser ammo I had, made a few weapon modifications, found the junk jet, sparked a fire under someone's ass, and hit the dead body jackpot. Each synth has ammo and each gun has more. It's a delight. Now you'd think that the junk jet would be a god tier weapon in this playthrough, but it's too annoying to use in general, and I wasn't interested in dealing with bullet drop. Had I come through ArcJet earlier, I probably would have used it. Same goes for the gun I got from Buzz. Back at the station, Dance said the king wanted to speak to me up in his balloon, so I climbed inside the bird and flew through the sky. The Brotherhood's got a secret weapon, in addition to my new helmet, that'll save me from myself. The only thing standing between me and that reward is a super mutant behemoth. On my tool belt were a whole bunch of ways I could have handled that little man. I used the free gun attached to the vertibird to kill it. The bullet casings littering the ground will one day grow into bullet trees. In a way, I'm helping the planet. Baby's first nuclear ordnance was found inside a locked office at the fort. I cleaned up what I could in the basement, talked to Dance about his past, and was lost because there was no way to get back up to the Pridwin without fast traveling. Before giving up, I put my education to use for the last time by building my way up to the blimp. I got close, closer than any other timeline's Mitten Squad. A Google informed me that there was a transportation point on one of the landing pads. His Highness gave me my orders, and I was going back towards the end of the Earth. The power of flight is my secret weapon. With the Brotherhood's vertibird grenades, I can summon an aircraft to fly me anywhere on the planet. Or so I thought. This most likely was not the first time I've ever flown in a vertibird, but I do it so infrequently that I didn't know you could only fly to locations that you've discovered. The immense payoff of being able to fly straight to Virgil's cave in a matter of minutes, after it taking almost 2 hours to get there and back, was almost worth this entire playthrough. Accidentally finding myself in Skyrim wasn't a bad experience either. As Lydia, I've never been more prepared to construct the teleportation playset. This time around, the half-clown didn't even have time to get in my way. Maxon ordered me to ensure that Madison Lee joins the Brotherhood of Steel at any cost. The clown gave me her nose. I got blinked inside. Either the drugs or something more powerful than myself made the elevator ride invigorating. I found Father was taken aback by what walked through those doors, and I got to work. Dr. Madison Lee, as of right now, is an optional objective. I'm carrying somewhere around 1,500 pounds of stuff, but that's not enough. The machines sending up the air down in the Institute are more plastic than soul. By killing them, I can potentially weigh myself down all the way to the center of the Earth. True to life, the hard part came after the screaming and crying stopped. I had to deal with all the effects of the drug I took and the mess I'd made. Everyone was dead. I began my journey to the surface and committed crimes against humanity on a scale that shocked nobody. You knew this was coming. I didn't count all the creatures I killed in the Institute, but after I loaded into Purgatory, even more were waiting for me. I looted them all, every last one of them. I had 137 Institute pistols and more than 100 of most main synth armor pieces. I did good. God disagreed. Strong and I, that's right, he's still here, flew back to the Pridwin. I told Dance the truth, bought everything I wanted as a youth but was told I couldn't have, and went through a series of unexpected failures. A Dr. Skara is now a Brotherhood of Steel scientist. I just have to find her and tell her. She's hiding out in a bowling alley. I knew that ahead of time. So I went as close as the bird would take me, dropped out into the f***ing war zone, dreamed I was playing Fallout 4 New Vegas, agreed with the robot that it was okay if I looked around, and the doctor isn't here yet. I flew back to Diamond City to find the doctor, ended up in the basement getting plastic surgery. Sadly, they can't put my eyes on the side of my head like a fish. The waypoint moved when I told it to. Mitten Squad Goes Bowling, the sequel, and we're back on track. Liberty Prime's gonna pop out of the Pridwin like a hamster in a birthday cake above the Institute later. That's the surprise. But his legs need magnets. I still thank the Lord to this day that this quest was boring as heck, because afterwards, the future of all Fallout 4 challenges changed. I learned about wire fences. You can spam them in place without moving. My treehouse prevented me from going crazy with it. One day I'll travel to Thrillville and take this game off the rails. Anyway, you know where I'm going now? Sentinel Site. You won't believe me now, but this was worse than the first trip to the glowing sea. I could tell it was gonna go well as soon as I entered the bird. Step 1. I can't go to Sentinel Site, so I skipped to Step 3, which is going to the Sentinel Site by way of the crater of Adam. I walked through hell. I walked through radiation. I walked through wind and rain to secure these nukes. Legendary ghouls and mole people guarded the entrance to the heart of the Sentinel. I pushed through them all, got to the door, and couldn't get inside because it was blocked off. I didn't talk to Scribe Halen yet. This entire game is a trick to make me feel like I'm contributing. She was supposed to go put the nukes down there after I talked to her. I only wasted about half an hour. I could have done some genie magic and console commanded the quest to fix me. You're all lucky that the third half of the 10th season of The Walking Dead was so comically bad that I didn't mind wasting a little more time doing this again. Adam's wrath fizzled out. I secured the objective, waited for the bus to come pick me up, flew home, and took a little detour. I wanted to see if I could kill the star of an overrated children's movie. Strong is not the man I thought he wasn't. I told the Elder that Dance is synth trash and needs to be wiped out for being different. Strong, a super mutant, agreed with that statement, naturally. Good job, Bethesda. Halen made up for harming my life earlier by luring me down to the airborne basement for a pep talk and Fat Man ammo. I had a plan for how to deal with Dance in a safe and Christianly manner. Obviously, he doesn't leave the outpost. I'll sneeze this entire f***ing cave system down around us both before he does. I deployed a series of mines, laid a trap that he couldn't possibly miss, talked him into facing the consequences for being born, and the f***er didn't even set off the mines. I ended him the old-fashioned way. Mixed in some futuristic torment by bringing him back to life just to kill him again, tried to do it again a third time but the game crashed. What comes next will not be for the faint of heart. I had to report back to the Pridwin, so waiting at the outpost to allow the gunman to restock his closet would benefit me very much. I was more interested in the signal grenades than anything else. Going out with an odd number of grenades is a one-way ticket to an unpleasant evening. Before heading to mass fusion, there was one small matter left to attend to. I've been neglecting the railroad. Once I was in the church, I paid no mind to labels. I didn't care who was on anyone's side. I shot at everything that moved. Even got a new collarbone from a legendary friendly. The heart of the railroad headquarters was a funny substance-fueled explosive haze that went off without a hitch. Strong hasn't been faring too well lately. I noticed that every time we're in the sky, he's down on one knee, waiting to propose. He could be injured and I wouldn't know it. Pam didn't fight back. She had a run of bad luck, and now we're going to mass fusion. To ensure my survival, I told Ingram to stay behind. Didn't want her slowing our bird down, as I'm still playing on hard, have put no points into heavy gunner to make miniguns better, and am about as inaccurate as I ever could be. The minigun was worthless. I used a missile launcher along the elevator to handle the synth machines. I'm one part immovable object, one part unstoppable force, and one part hypocrite, but that's not what you want to know about. You want to know about the Assaultrons and the Sentry Bot. I've known since before you were born that these f***s would one day try to kill me, but what I didn't expect was that my death would come from me trying to kill them while they were still asleep. As for the radiation, it wasn't even the deadliest thing in the room. I didn't know turrets were in there before this playthrough. I'm never in there long enough for them to burrow down from the center to reach me. With the Rad X and radiation perks, the radiation was a minor annoyance at worst. The sentry bot used strong as a distraction just as I intended. Despite having like 45 stim packs, I still struggled to decide what to eat to heal myself. I learned the hard way that the game is still on hard, escaped mass fusion, flew back to the airport, and let the dawn of the real game begin. If you've made it this far into the video, first of all, congratulations. Second, you're aware of my feelings in general towards Liberty Prime. He sucks. I couldn't kill anything because I couldn't keep up with Liberty Prime. That would have been a good thing had he not gotten flustered with his coordinates. That was fun. Back in time, he learned his lesson. I took a friendly's gun, we arrived at CIT ruins, the iron monster blew a hole in the earth, I fell in, and the end began. If you're wondering, Strong doesn't really care what's going on, and neither does the game. Maxon, Ingram, and all of Star Command stayed by my side as we mowed down my son's family. Father had one last trick up his sleeve. He locked all the doors. The nutty professor unlocked the elevator for me, I rode up to face my future, and legitimately forgot that I already killed Father. I had this whole thing planned, I was gonna kill him with Kellogg's gun, it was gonna be great. This is what he would have seen. Imagine that's the last thing you see before you die. What a fucking way to go out. I pumped myself full of every drink, chem, beverage, and drink I had just before entering the reactor chamber, rigged the generator to explode, teleported to safety, and with Strong still by my side, I pretty much beat Fallout 4 while completely crippled and over-encumbered.